I don't want to die young. I want to live a full life. What would you say is the greatest contributor to ill health? Is it genetics or lifestyle?
Genetics load the gun. Lifestyle is the trigger.
Is there tangible proof that detox teas and slimming teas work and help people lose weight?
So I'll start from detox teas. Detox teas are rubbish. Yes, I said it. A lot of slimming teas are basically just laxatives. So it's like purging medicine. Drink it, you purge. So your body does not even have enough time to digest the food. Somebody was selling a lung cleaning tea. Lungs. The woman would think fertility. Many people think women.
Yeah.
Men also. So if we look at a couple trying to get pregnant, 30% of the problem is usually from the woman. 30% of the problem is usually from the man alone. Or 30%, both of them together combined have issues. Freezing of the eggs is an option, but freezing of the eggs is not a guarantee that pregnancy will happen. The same thing that could happen in a normal pregnancy could also happen in a frozen egg.
How do you move from a pap seller to a highly revered doctor and one of the most watched people around the continent?
I read everything. Akara, we wrapped it with newspapers. I would consume every newspaper before it became a rapid. One of the problems my mom had with me was, she was like, no, so your eye is not down. Eye is always up. In Igbo, they will tell you it's anyagilonelu. So it's like, you're not looking here. You're always the bigger things. You're always, Mommy, I'm going to buy you houses. That was the kind of childhood I had.
What would be 2 generic rules that you give me to increase my chances of living longer? Hello, Doc.
Alpha.
I'm very well, thank you. Doc, influence is the capacity to shape how people act or think without necessarily having a formal authority to compel them.
I like the last part.
Yes, without necessarily having the formal authority to compel them. And as far as influence goes, I think it is hard to look at the entire African digital space and not mention the name Aproko Doctor. In simple terms, I believe that you are one of Africa's most influential individuals. That influence started off as a young man giving tips, hoping to help people live better lives. But today, it has now been institutionalized, whether we like to admit it or not, in the sense that people's daily decisions are now shaped by the words that you uttered from some place in some studio in Lagos State. How does that make you feel?
Humbled. When we think about just how much impact we've had, it makes me feel like we haven't even started. It makes me feel like we've not even scratched the surface. Because a lot of the people we reach are still the people who have access to digital media. There is an entire sector of people who do not have access to digital media. They're still stuck with traditional media. They still have their radios, their transistor radios and all of that. And every day I think we're thinking, how do we reach these people? But generally for me, my reward comes from the random woman who walks up to me at the airport, on the road, and she's like, Aproko, thank you. There was something you said one time and then it helped my child. My child was sick and I did what you said and my child got better. And I'm like, yes, that's it. That's the reason we started this, just helping the average person.
And so, unlike teachers, your reward is not necessarily in heaven. Already reaping some of the dividends right here on the earth. Very interesting name, Aproko. It's in local parlance, a colloquial name for a talkative, and I too know, and someone who's pretty nosy, right? How did you settle on that name?
Funny story, right? This entire thing started in 2015. But it didn't start as Aproko Doctor. It started as the TV box. Something, right? And the idea was we just wanted to help people, put health information in a manner that people could understand. Now, There's a story behind that, but too long. So I'll just focus on why we decided to go with Aproko. Somewhere along the line, we decided that, or rather, we found out and learned that the best way to communicate to Nigerians and Africans in general was through stories. And we started telling stories. Stories about Emeka, stories about Nkechi, because my earlier videos were not anything story like. They were more like lectures. And so you see me sit in front of the camera and I'm like, hi guys. So today we're going to talk about the 5 types of hepatitis. Hepatitis A, hepatitis, and nobody was paying attention because nobody is opening their digital device and wants to listen to a lecture except they really needed it. And we started telling stories. And we're sort of like nosy stories. There were stories that were spoken in our language, in our parlance, not necessarily the local languages, but how we generally speak in sarcasm, in tough love, because I needed to sound like the people I wanted to reach. Right? And we needed a name. But then I knew I was battling for attention with people who were making content purely for entertainment purposes. I needed this content that I was creating to find the people who actually needed it before they needed it. So it wasn't necessarily we say now you're chasing clout. It was the people who needed this information are not looking for it at the moment, but I need to reach them. So we coined together a name that would spark curiosity.
Just before we get back to that gripping conversation, this is a very good time to remind you that you have a role to play to ensure this riveting conversation reaches more people. All you have to do is simply like this video and also turn on post notification after subscribing to this channel. Your subscription helps us know we're doing something good, and it also helps the algorithm take this particular episode and much more to other viewers. And also, of course, it keeps you reminded when next we drop another episode. Thank you. Now let's get back to the juice.
But at the same time, let you know that there's some bit of credibility to this person. So it was almost like in some brainstorming with myself and my friends, like, why not Aproko Doctor? And I'm like, Aproko is a woman's name. So what's the other similar name like Aproko? Let's try Aproko, and we're like Aproko Doctor. And all of a sudden, since then till now,
What was this?
stuck.
2015?
It was 2015.
Interesting.
2015. 10
And
years
so
ago.
that's a testament to the endurance of your brand. I think speaking from a business standpoint, I need you to understand how what you have achieved is no mean feat. So for context, just 4 out of 100 businesses in Nigeria last to 10 years. I repeat, just 4% of Nigerian businesses make it to 10 years.
4%?
Yes, just 4% make it to 10 years. It's that serious. Now, I said that to say 10 years in retrospect could look like a short time, right? But in the moment, definitely looks long. And that goes without saying that kudos to who kudos is due, because building a brand for 10 years means that you definitely must have been through the ups and downs, right? And I think one of the most important things that are necessary to keep you relevant is obviously understanding a different inflection points in your journey, understanding when to pivot, understand when to iterate, and so on and so forth. I think I'm going to need a little bit more insight into that journey. But before I get to that, I'd like to know the kind of context you'd like me to have on who Chinonso was as a young chap growing up. Had you always been the selfless person who had always sought to look out for others? What are some intricate details in your journey that shaped your current course?
Wow. You asking that question has forced me to go back again. I was discussing with a mentor of mine recently, and he told me something. I don't think I've told anybody this, but I'll tell you. He said,
Trust.
Nonso, I think you're stuck in survival mode. And this was a long time ago. And that was an inflection point for me. It was When he said that, I knew I needed to change something. And I'll tell you because it's about my childhood, right? So growing up, I experienced the love of both parents. I knew what the average home should look like. To some extent, things were fine. But then tragedy struck. And tragedy in the sense of poverty. There's this Lasisi meme that he says, poverty sat me down, right?
On a
And
Sunday afternoon.
on a Sunday afternoon. I remember vividly waking up for school and and then everybody in the compound was shouting, and my parents' store had been fully boggled to the point that nothing was left. Apparently, they came in through a hole in the ceiling and left through there, right? So the front of the store was still locked. This was when supermarkets were a thing. So my dad had a supermarket, with my mom. It was a joint venture. On the side, he sold cars. So I was the kind of kid who went to church in a different car every Sunday. That's one of the reasons I love cars right now. So waking up that day, still remember it vividly. As I'm speaking to you right now, I can recall everything. So we opened the store and there was nothing in it. And this was without insurance because, the average Nigerian family doesn't think insurance is a thing. And we were immediately thrown from middle class to lower class. Now, so my family had to figure out how to survive.
What about the goods?
I think everything you can buy in a large scale mall today, we had it.
And overnight.
Overnight, completely gone. It still baffles me how they were able to complete such an operation and no one knew.
What year was it?
Bad years, but I was roughly 6.
So mid 1990s.
Mid-90s. Now, so my parents had to figure out a way to survive. And my mom, we still had rent in that large mall. So, I think 3 or 4 shops away, there was a woman. She's Togolese, or rather, she was Togolese because she's late now. She's Togolese, and she was friends with my mom. And so she told my mom, she was like, okay, based on what's that happened, I think what will happen is I'll stop selling water and minerals in my restaurants so that whenever my customers need those things, you would serve them.
Oh my.
So, and that taught me something. You see the power of community. I'd learned that message different times in my lifetime. And it's something I don't joke with. Community is very important. And so she collapsed an entire section of her business so that my mom could sell that. Right? So my childhood was screams of, no, so customer want pure water. I would run from shop 1 to shop 4 to serve, right? Give them pure water, give them minerals if they want it, and then watch and wait for them as soon as they're coming out to pay and coming out to collect money because, different shops, different payment options and all of that. Now, that wasn't enough to keep our family afloat. We needed something more, Oh, yes. On the car side, also, things also went, really bad. So things happened and my mom had to start selling her car, and pop. So that was my childhood in the morning and in the evening. So I would go just before I go to school, I would wake up, would wash beans. I think I washed beans every morning for as long as I can remember. It was one of
By the first child?
Yes. So first of three siblings.
Mm.
Yeah. And this was what my childhood was like. So evening, I would sit down by the junction with a bowl of pap and wait for the people who were returning from work. So as they were passing, somebody remembers, I got to drink pap tomorrow morning. Or I have to drink pap this night. And they will buy from me.
So out of sight would have been out of mind for them.
Out of sight. So we had to position ourselves in such a way where I was not positioned in the shop any longer. I was positioned on the road. Because if you're positioned on the shop, it's very easy for them to pass. We're positioned on the road with the native lantern. They call it atukpa. Not the one that has this thing. The one where it's just a weak, atukpa. So that was basically, my childhood. But then I also needed escape from that world because for some reason I had known what looks like. And so in order to escape that world, I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of novels. I had big dreams as a child. It got to a point, at some point in my childhood, this was when, fast forward a few years, I had gotten to the point where it was now time, what university are you going to go to? And that was the time when we could talk about scholarships to other schools. I remember getting University of Leeds brochure. We could easily get brochures delivered to your house. So I would get brochures from different universities. I had a lot of those brochures because I wanted to go to one of these schools. And somewhere growing up, a parent told their child to stop talking to me because I was spoiling them.
How?
So I cornered another friend of mine and told him that, we have to go to a bigger school. And it was either Leeds or Brighton. It just had to be in the UK. And he thought I was a bad influence on his child because I wasn't teaching the child contentment. I was making the child dream bigger than where they were, already. How are they going to find the money? Because I stopped talking to Nonso, told his parents stop, and we were really close. But I think that sort of put a dent in our relationship somehow. So the Nonso was the Nonso who, despite the fact that he was surrounded by poverty, did not let that stop his dreaming. Quote, and I had big dreams, I still do.
As this is
It's giving you a new perspective to me.
yes, absolutely. I mean, how do you move from a pap seller to a highly revered doctor and one of the most watched people around the continent? So this gives me some context, right? But I think what I applaud the most in the story is not necessarily the resilience in that moment. Okay, so how do I explain? So there are different kinds of people you meet in the midst of adversity. They are the ones who obviously see the situation and have made peace with the situation. And so what happens is they know how to endure. They are pros. In fact, some of them know how to pray the prayer of serenity, right?
Teach me to accept.
Yeah, Lord, teach me the thing, give me serenity to accept the things I cannot change. However, that wisdom is where I think many people fall short. On one hand, they accept this is my current condition. So many stay there. But like the very beautiful words of Marcus Aurelius, the popular Stoic philosopher, he would say so brilliantly that uh, there's a point you get to where the obstacle can become the way. And the very thing that was supposed to be an impediment to the action becomes what advances the action. And so I said that to say, it's not enough that many people find themselves on the ground. Many stay on the ground, feeling like it's a condition that can never be changed because it's a blow that life dealt them. But I think what, in my opinion, is applaudable about your story is that you chose to make stew with the tomatoes that life gave you. And so, my question will be, what were your earliest exposure to a much more desirable life that at least gave you enough courage
To dream.
to dream? That's important. Have you ever thought about it? What did I see? Or was it just innate?
I can't point to one particular person. However, I do know that one of the sacrifices my parents paid or they made on our behalf was they made sure that we went to the best schools they could afford.
Oh, okay.
So my primary school was almost like a foundation because it was one of the best schools we could afford at that particular point. And like I said, I just read I read everything, you know. So it might not necessarily be one particular person. It was more like a collection of different stories that continually reminded me that this is not enough. So one of the problems my mom had with me was she was like, no, so your eye is not down.
Hmm.
And she kept saying it. She was like, no, so your eye is not down. Eye is always up.
Hmm.
In Igbo, they will tell you it's anya gị nọ n'elu.
Hmm.
So it's like you're not looking here. You're always in the future. You're always the bigger things. You're always mommy, I'm going to buy you houses.
Hmm.
You know, that was the kind of childhood I had, right? That irrespective of anything that was going on, I just wanted to consume stuff, read stuff. I would then akara, we wrapped it with newspapers.
Hmm.
I would consume every newspaper before it became a wrap for akara. So I would not necessarily say there was one particular person. I think it was more of a collection of just the different things I was reading that ended up, shaping who I was today, who I am today. And even the previous person that became this person. Because even in medical school, I didn't fit in.
Hmm.
I was the that was the that was the guy who understood, just enough to pass through medical school, but seemed like he had his love somewhere else. But I couldn't place what it was. I just knew this is still not enough. I don't know what it is, but this is still not enough. I had dreams where I would dream one particular one vividly. I can't forget that dream. I think it was it was during my first year. I had slept, and during the dream, I was speaking to an uncountable crowd.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like the crowd was, you couldn't pick people. That was how massive the crowd was. I remember that dream vividly because for some reason, I just woke up and I'm like, okay, I think that that's in my future somewhere.
Hmm.
But then I thought it was Michael Jackson entertainment. So I started to hone my craft in that line. you know, um, I was also I also struggled with there's something called the battle of the gifted.
Hmm.
I could do anything if I put my heart to it.
Hmm.
So for a long while, I was confused as to what to do. If I chose acting, I knew I would be a very brilliant actor. If I wanted to sing, I knew I would be a brilliant singer. If I decided to go the academic way, I knew I was going to be a
Like
good
a
academic.
pitfall of multi-potentiality.
I was confused. So the moment I dreamt that, I'm like, okay, it's music this time. It's music this time. And then I started with music. And somewhere along the way, I got tired of music. I was like, hey, let's do something else. And mainly was acting, and, acted and all of those things. But the person that's became me now had to go through different births.
Hmm.
And one which I've learned now is you can't survive without systems.
Hmm.
So what we're actually doing at my company is We're constantly looking for ways to take Nonso out of the limelight so that we can have as many Aproko doctors as possible.
How so?
So we're now working with We Are All Aproko Doctor. It's now a channel where different people are reaching different communities because there's a limit to just how many people Aproko Nonso can reach. There's a limit to how many people I'm going to influence, no matter how great it is at the moment. Can it still grow? Yes. But like I told you, there is a huge gaping hole that we've not been able to fill, which is the numerous people who do not look like me, who don't sound like me, who I'll never be able to reach. There are people currently that have the ability to reach them. So how do we train those people to reach those people? Now, we've already built the channel. We've built the distribution modes. We have over 12.3 million accounts following the channel generally. That's already a moat that can grow. We can now use that to have someone who's focused on nutrition. We have another person who's focused on exercise. We have another person who's focused on lifestyle. We have another person who's focused on maternal health. We have another person who's focused on child health. Different people, different communities utilizing the same distribution channel.
There's a lot to unpack. So, we would have thought that 25 minutes into a very insightful conversation with Aproko Doctor or with a doctor will give you a lot of motivational gems without even scratching the medical surface at all. Now, before talking about the plans of your platform on a more futuristic sense, I think there's a whole lot you said that I need to unpack. And I think it speaks, first and foremost to the power of imagination.
True.
Right? It reminds me of the words of the author of the 1902 classic, As a Man Thinketh, James Allen. He said something so profound that it is impossible for you to travel within and stand still without. I think it's powerful in the sense that I always respond this way when young people tell me, hey, Olushola, you always talk about the power of exposure, right? And the power of building the right community. But there's nothing around me in my most immediate environment that looks like where I'm headed. And then the next thing I always tell them is, well, while I get you, and while you might not have the economic and financial means to be able to uproot yourself from that particular environment, there's still a way you can curate an environment for yourself. And a very good way is to read. Or a very good way is also to do something as little as curating your feed. Because like we always say, there is a reason it's called feed because it's food for your mind and nutrition for your soul.
Yes.
And so I think that's what you did. I think it's really profound in that. And by the way, kudos to your parents. They did something that I think is similar to what my mom did. Not so familiar story in a sense, but in terms of the tragedy, yes, I lost my dad at 7. Almost around the same age, what happened to your family happened. And yes, I think that's one of the moments I had epiphanies from a very young age. I had this auntie who would always say, Shola Tobi, Emma Faraway, I want to baba, which means don't compare yourselves to your friends. You know you don't have a father. And we obviously had to start growing that sense of responsibility early enough, which, by the way, can also be a bit damaging to a child if it goes unchecked. Because right now, I've never said this before, but I'm still recovering from chronic independence. You feel it? You know what I'm talking about? So bad that I don't know how to ask for help. I could be suffering, dying. I won't bug a person. And it's a problem that I think still needs fixing. My wife is probably doing serious therapy with me on that because it's so bad and could be very damaging. But it goes to say that one of the things that I would say also helped was my mom, to a given extent, biting almost a little bit more than she could chew with respect to going all out to ensure that we got the best of education. We can relate to that extent. So what happens is when your parents put you in those kind of schools, you are automatically playing on a different field from the environment that you're living in. And boy, oh boy, that did a number on you.
It did. It did. It did. There were also certain standards that my dad decided that he was going to enforce. I was surrounded by who the society would call thugs and touts.
Where'd you grow up?
Abuja.
Woo! So, how do we describe Abuja for the global audience? Abuja is explain, describe it.
It's very difficult to explain. So, Aguda is where you'd meet the quote unquote thugs and shake hands with them because they know you reach house. They sabi you reach your domots. I will just leave it that way. It was a place where you were also once in a while you'd see a fancy car drive by. And there's a game we used to play as kids where if every car drove and was go say, that's my car. That's my car. That's my car. The red one, that's my car, But we didn't see a lot of it. So the one you saw was beautiful. I never visited the bar beach as a child. I didn't know where it was. I never crossed. I think it was an adult that I knew where Ikoyi was as an adult. I had left school, I had done everything. Like, okay, there's somewhere called the island. so my God. So I had no idea that these places existed. Now, talking about Aguda, something happened when we were so my mom decided, okay, you know what? There's pap, there's akara. I'll make the good ones. I would make the pap itself into pap, ogi, and then put it with akara so that you can now sell it as fast food. So she was trying to move from, she was trying to upsell rather than just selling the raw pap, make it and charge more for it. Now, unfortunately, that turned me into, not unfortunately, because I learned a lot out of it, that turned me into the delivery boy of my mom's business. So I would take the package and I'll go to, and then deliver it. There was a particular compound that always ordered. Always ordered. Now, this was a compound where you had people who were doing drugs, weed, name it, right? And they knew me by name. Chinonso,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So now, I think I've delivered a couple of times. And one day I spoke to my mom. I was like, Mommy, I don't want to deliver to these people again. And she was like, why? I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable. I've told her this before. Looking back at it, I went back to her and I said, Mommy, thank you for listening to me. Because what many parents would have done is that they would have elevated the condition of the family above the future of the child. So she was like, okay, since you say so, that's it. You're not going back there again. I will tell them to either come and pick it themselves or that you're not around. Because they always wanted me. Sometimes they would specifically request me also bring them. They also liked me for some reason.
It could have been a different story.
It could have been a different story. I mean, I'm taking pap into a room that has smoke everywhere.
As subtle as that sounds, it's a bit of a masterclass on parenting. So it could just have gone anywhere. Speaking of which, I think your mom is a hero for that. I think I think what you had was the wholesome experience, right?
I did.
You knew to the roots what it meant to work for money. An aside, right? I always speaking to young female mentees. I always say, hey, when you're trying to pick a life partner, don't just pick someone who knows, don't just pick someone who has money, but pick instead someone who knows how to make money and also someone who has lost some money and knows how to make it back to some degree. Yeah. It might seem a little bit idealistic, but I'm sure you get the context because so what those moments did in you was that they forged some level of grit in you. Okay, so you're now like, okay, I know where I'm coming from. And that definitely gives you some added responsibility to be able to hold on to what you have now. But most importantly, it gives you and inculcates in you the virtue of gratitude.
True
So
that.
now, hey, I've tasted of both worlds. I
Sure enough.
definitely have. Thank you so much for giving me the context. And what that does is it gives me more regard and respect for you. Knowing that you obviously had to go through all of these. And it leads me to a very tasty part of the conversation. One of the best books that I read this year is a book called The Wealth Money Cannot Buy by Robin Sharma. It's a book I always recommend to people.
I should read
And
that.
in the midst of the conversation that he kept on detailing throughout the book, he talks about the different forms of wealth that a person should have as against just one form, which is literal cash. And in the second part of the conversation, he talks about wellness as a second form of wealth. I wrote this down, so I'm going to have to read it myself. He says, when we're young, we're willing to sacrifice all of our health for the pursuit of wealth.
Mhm.
And once we're old, we're willing to sacrifice all of our wealth for even one day of good health. And then he goes on to say, if you lose your wellness, you'll spend the rest of your days trying to get it back. That seems to be the core of the message you drum into our ears every 7 a.m. And so I think,
it's 9 now.
oh, it's 9 a.m. It used to be
Yeah.
7, right?
Yeah, it used to be
I
7.
used to wake up to it sometimes.
But then we realized that we were messing with some people's sleep, so we had to stay true to the message and push it tonight.
Interesting. Interesting. And so it leads me to, I'll say a plethora of questions because I have quite a number. Not every time do you have Aproko Doctor staying right beside you. And so a bit of a, or do I say a bit of an anchor to all I'm trying to talk about next will be the importance of wellness. I don't want to die young. And so I want to live a full life. And I think there's a constant struggle between genetics and lifestyle
Mhm.
with respect to everything health related.
Mhm.
And so it leads me to quite a number of questions that I would love to ask. And these questions, I would say, are centered around so many topics. I'm talking cancer related, sleep, diet, nutrition, joints, bones, rheumatism, and all of the likes. But I think I first and foremost like to say, what would you say is the greatest contributor to ill health? Is it genetics or lifestyle?
I would explain it this way. Genetics load the gun.
Hmm.
Lifestyle is the trigger. So genetics is the bullets.
Hmm.
You already have bullets in the gun. For example, kidney disease. There is a particular gene called APOL1, APOL1, that West Africans have. This gene was,
Why West Africans? Sorry.
I'll explain. This gene was the same way we have the sickle cell gene, right? There was a time where suffering from trypanosomiasis, sleeping sickness, or some form of it. So our bodies, in response to be able to not die, mutated one of those genes to be able to survive that sickness. It's why it's also one of the mutations where we have sickle cell. So, for example, sickle cell, malaria. mutation against malaria. That's why a lot of people, when we had the white men come down here, a lot of them died. But where they were dying, people were still alive. So that APO gene, for instance, APO1 gene, carries a risk, meaning that if that gene is there, not everybody in West Africa has it. Some people do. Most people do. Meaning that if that gene is present, whatever insult happens on the kidney is accelerated. So what a person would need 4 strokes on the kidney to die, the person with the APO1 gene, more than 1 copy, will probably need 1 or 2. So it means if that person takes a toxin, it would affect the person who has the APO gene faster than the person who does not. So that gene is already there. But that gene by itself does not necessarily confer kidney damage. It just accelerates it when the assault is there. So you see, the genetics is there. It's there. It's like the bullet in the gun. So every one of us, not every, but most of us, almost every one of us comes into the world with a loaded gun on the table. Whether you choose to pull the trigger or not is now dependent on your lifestyle. Sometimes some things happen to you, sometimes you are the one happening to things, right? But if we look at kidney disease now, for instance, we have one of the biggest contributors to kidney disease, hypertension. Affects roughly 30 to 40% of Nigerians.
So you're saying that you've noticed that there's a very strong strong relationship between kidney disease and hypertension. So many of the people who have hypertension run risk of kidney disease.
So hypertension, there are a couple of factors. I usually think better when I have a pen in my hand. So let me remove the one from my phone. So we have the genetic components, right?
Yeah.
So we have the genes.
Yeah.
But that's not everything. That's just step 1, right? So not everybody has that gene. But the people who do would accelerate the damage of their kidney faster. Then you have a couple of other factors that can lead to kidney disease, for instance. And one of the reasons I'm picking kidney disease is because a lot of young people are beginning to come down with it. And then we ask ourselves why. Some of the greatest factors are hypertension and diabetes. And that's because you need to think of your kidneys as a filter. Now, because it's a filter, you have to be very delicate with it. It's like a fine filter. It's able to separate blood, the liquid you need, from waste. If that filter gets damaged, what happens is you have a lot of the toxins that are supposed to leave the body stay back.
Okay.
That's in the simplest form.
Okay.
It's the simplest form, right? Now, hypertension is basically increased pressure in the blood vessel itself. Think of it this way. You have a pipe this big, right? So let's call this a blood vessel. You have a pipe this big, and I'm trying to force the kind of blood that would naturally pass through this pipe, through this. 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, it damages the pipe itself.
Yeah.
Secondly, it damages whatever is at the end of that pipe.
So
It's too much. And usually, over time, with age, the blood vessels themselves lose that flexibility and become more stiff, increasing the blood pressure further. The problem with hypertension is a lot of people have no symptoms. There's a reason it's called the silent killer. A lot of people don't know.
So what do we do?
Now, here's what we do. You check.
From what age?
So long as you're an adult. Just check every
So
year, at least if you're 25, 26. Oh, by the way, I have a personal story on hypertension. So I was during my house job, I was 27 years old then, and I was in charge of the delivery ward. You know, we had women at different stages of labor. And all of a sudden, I just got this inkling in my spirit somewhere. I was like, yeah, just go check your blood pressure. I think I was feeling a bit funny. So I went, checked my blood pressure.
scientific facts have shown that there's a very strong relationship between scent and mood. This literally means that you have a tendency to be crankier and unproductive in a place that has got a very bad smell. And which is why you have to be as intentional as possible to curate the exact scent environment that you want for yourself. That intelligent decision has led us to a brand called Harem Istanbul. They've been in existence for years and are currently represented in over 75 countries. They've got an incredible array of diffusers, room sprays, and even perfumes. And with very soothing scents like cinnamon, tonka bean, pineapple, melon, and the likes, they've got your entire homes, rooms, and offices covered. The home sprays and the diffusers are sure to keep you in a very delightful mood as you make your way into a productive day. I absolutely recommend. All you have to do is visit www.haremistanbulnj.com to cop yours. They're as affordable as they get, with prices starting from as low as $7. And so you don't have to break your back to have your room smelling great. And oh, lest I forget, they're very long lasting and you might not be needing as many frequent refills as you think. Well, let's get back to the juice.
My blood pressure was 180 over 110. Now, normal blood pressure right now is even less than 120 over 80. Mine was many digits above that. Any more higher than that, I probably would have had a stroke or ruptured a blood vessel in my brain. And it would be, oh, that's such a young boy. I was just 27 at that point. But at 27, I wasn't sleeping well. I was doing 3 jobs at the same time. I was broke again because the state government at that time had not paid us for months on end. So a couple of things that were contributing to my blood pressure. Now imagine I had not checked at that time. This is 9 years, 8 years after that, constantly having that pressure beating your blood vessels, beating your kidneys. Your heart is working overtime to be able to overcome that stiffness and push further. By now, you tend to see the symptoms of kidney failure because your organs can only take so much beating before they eventually say, you know what, I don't think I can compensate anymore. Which now leads to another question. Why does it get to that level? Right? So we've talked about diabetes, we've talked about diabetes too, the same thing. Over like if the blood sugar in your blood is constantly always high, your kidneys are forced to work overtime to be able to bring all of it because it's not supposed to leak through the kidneys. So it's working overtime. Overtime, it's like it's like getting somebody and giving him 5 times his workload. There's only so much he can be motivated to work. At some point, it's going to break down. The same thing that happens to the kidney. Then there are now the external factors, toxins, for instance. And when I say toxins, unregulated herbal medications. You're taking a lot of it. You're giving your kidneys more work. The bitters here, the one who's hawking it, right? You're taking it. You're giving yourself more work. Fake medication, for instance. Oh, there's also NSAIDs, which a lot of people take. So NSAIDs are a particular group of medication. Ibuprofen, diclofenac. Trying so hard not to call brand names, but those are the group of medications. What they do is that when they get abused, they damage the kidneys because they primarily affect how the kidneys work. But then you have a lot of the people who have the unregulated herbal medications mix these NSAIDs. Oh, there are actual reports of this. They mix NSAIDs into their herbal medications so that it can work faster or people get that relief of pain almost immediately.
And think that the herbs were doing the work.
Yes. So now you have a double assault of both the NSAIDs that are taken every morning in combination with the toxins from the herbal medications that are taken every morning. And all of that, imagine that person that has the APO1 gene.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack. If I get you correctly, herbs are, or how, yes,
Unregulated
yes.
herbal medication.
Okay, so if I get you correctly, unregulated herbal medication are one of the leading
Contributors,
causes and
yeah.
contributors to kidney
Kidney,
disease.
yeah.
But also, if I also get you correctly, are you saying that a 20-something-year-old can also have high blood pressure?
Yeah.
And finally, if I get you correctly, and which I'd like to clarify, when you say NSAIDs, are you also saying that, try not to mention some brand names, but I think this one is not a direct brand name, but I think paracetamol
So paracetamol is not an NSAID.
is not an NSAID.
Yes.
Why? What makes it different? It's also a pain reliever.
Yes. So there are different pain relievers work at different levels, right? NSAIDs are a particular group of medication, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. That's the full meaning of NSAIDs. What they do is that they affect the production of a particular inflammatory marker or chemical called prostaglandins. So if they affect that inflammatory marker goes down, your body's perception to pain reduces. That's how it affects it. There are also another pain medication where you're talking about morphine, you're talking about codeine, you're talking about tramadol that work differently. Those ones may not necessarily work directly at the pain sites, reducing inflammation. They just work on your brain's perception of the pain.
So they
they're
didn't
not
deal
reducing
with
the
the
pain.
brain?
Yes. So they're just dealing with the brain. So your brain doesn't perceive the pain as much.
Okay. That's a first.
Yeah.
I used to think they were dealing with the pain.
No.
Which is what makes it easy to get addicted to.
Yes.
Aha. Now I see. Thank you, Doc. I think with respect to heart and blood pressure related conversations, I have a number of questions here that I think I'd love you to deal with once and for all. The first sounds a bit like a misconception or a myth, but I need clarification.
Mhm.
Is it true that very slim people can't have heart disease?
No. Very slim people can have heart disease. So heart disease is like so when we say heart disease, the problem is with the heart itself. And there are different things that are in the heart. There's the heart muscle, there are the valves of the heart. So heart disease could be maybe the person has a valvular problem. One of the valves are not closing or opening as it should, or the muscle itself is becoming a problem. Now, there are also different types of. So if we talk about blood pressure, right? Because hypertension is very closely linked to the heart. The problem is the vessels themselves have become stiff. So it's finding it difficult for blood to pass through. The heart tries to compensate by beating harder to overcome that pressure. The problem is the more it tries to beat harder, the less blood it's able to pump per time, because the muscles of the heart itself, not the chamber itself, the muscles of the heart itself now become so thick that it's no longer able to relax and pump fully, because now the muscles have become, it's like that very big gym guy that can no longer flex. And at that point, heart failure sets in. Right? So if you have a slim person who has been dealing with hypertension for a very long time, that person is going to have the heart failure or heart disease. So slim people can have hypertension, right? And also because there are two types of hypertension. There's a primary kind and a secondary kind. The primary kind is the hypertension that we have not been able to yet identify what the exact cause is. We just know this person's blood pressure is high. A lot of it is genetic.
Oh, okay.
So mother had, your father had, your uncle had, your grandmother somewhere had. Right? Then there's a secondary kind. The secondary kind is something that's wrong in the body is causing it. Sometimes it's kidney disease. Sometimes a hormonal problem, things like the thyroid. If you treat that, it resolves the blood pressure.
Okay.
A lot of people are dealing with the primary kind.
So why can't doctors explain it?
Because hypertension is not necessarily a 1 + 1 = 2. There are a lot of factors that are playing in on it, right? Now, so a risk factor is different from a causing factor. So when we say a risk factor, it means these things increases your chances of having hypertension.
Okay.
A causing factor is this is directly what's responsible.
Oh.
So we've been able to identify a lot of risk factors. Age, for instance. That's why it was initially thought as an old people disease.
Yes.
But right now, it's now happening to very young people. People who are in their 20s. Why? A lot of things have changed. Sometimes diets that is filled with salt.
Speaking of salt, how does eating salt directly cause high blood pressure?
I am so happy you asked that because that's one of the strongest misconceptions we've heard so far. Some people belong to the school of thought that sugar is more responsible for blood pressure than salt is. But salt is a very direct cause. Now, your body needs sodium, very important, right? But excess of it might lead to problems. Now, the thing with salt and blood pressure is that when you take a lot of salt, there's a lot of sodium in your bloodstream. Osmosis means water would move across a semi-permeable membrane from an area of lower concentration to an area of high concentration. That salt inside the bloodstream already has a high concentration that the body thinks it needs to dilute.
Okay.
So what does he do? He pulls water from everywhere else into the blood vessel, increasing the pressure in that blood vessel, directly responsible for that. Another thing is also there's something called the renin-angiotensin system in the kidneys. It's actually very complex, but that sodium also affects that because there has to be a fine balance between sodium, chlorine, potassium. It's our bodies are doing magnificent work if you just let it be and managing that balance.
So how much salt is too much?
As a rule of thumb,
Tell me.
per day, you should not take more than a teaspoonful of salt.
Hold up. How am I going to be able to measure that? Like,
A
I wish.
teaspoonful is the smallest spoon in your house.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, how
So
am I
per
able to
day,
measure it across
yes.
my meal?
So if you're measuring it across your meal, sometimes because of how strict, it's very difficult to follow that, But think of in the morning, am I taking 1/3 of this or 2/3 of this or or that? Number two is look at the back of what most people purchase in the supermarket.
Hmm.
Look for the sodium content. You'll see it at the back is written because they're mandated by law to write it. It's just that a lot of people don't pay attention to the back of the product. When you look at the back of the product, you will see this is how much sodium and how many percent it is directly to your own daily recommended intake. So, because sodium is the main ingredient that you're trying to manage. And I think for sodium is different from salt. So, because sodium is just one of the components of salt. I'll try to find the exact number. I think it's about 3 grams. Now, when you look at your sodium, there's also that. So it means if you take a snack that already has high sodium, you've most likely taken almost even more than what you should take that day.
For that day.
And if it continues as a habit, of course, there are other contributors to blood pressure. For instance, diet also.
What other kinds
Obesity.
But what other kinds of diets could contribute?
Or junk diets. Junk diets are usually high in sodium.
Oh, that was just sugar.
Yeah. Most junk diets are high in sodium.
Whew. Doc, there's
And
a lot
also sugar, because sugar leads to obesity. Obesity, increased blood pressure. The heart has to work times 2.
How do I explain? I'm calling myself the voice of the people in this conversation. People have questions for doctors. How much more so Aproko Doctor, right? And so we're 1 hour into this extremely insightful conversation. I tell you, I didn't know. I just go like a nudge now. And so what I'm going to do is a very interesting topic for this conversation will be 1,000 ways to die, or
I like that.
1,000 ways to die, or 20 ways to stay alive. Something around that.
I like it.
Yeah. And so to that end, I think I want to ask now, myself and my team were able to, through some very solid research, cover some frequently asked questions around different areas. Like I said earlier, sleep, heart diseases, mental health, immunity, exercise and fitness, age and longevity, and even general health needs primarily. Now, because of our time, I want to try and see how many I can cover. So I'm going to try to pick the most frequent of those questions. And I'd like you to respond to them to the best of your knowledge, which I obviously know is ridiculously vast. And depending on how long you can dwell on them, perhaps maybe 2 minutes for each of the questions. Does using a microwave cause cancer?
No. Short answer.
So where did the misconception come from?
They called it waves, electromagnetic waves. And most times people are afraid of the things that they don't understand. So what the microwave does is that it simply heats up, it vibrates the water molecules in the food, not the plates, the food. So it vibrates the water molecules in the food. If you understand physics, the law of entropy, the more vigorous the vibration, you find heat. So it's using the food to heat up itself. But you see, we think, oh, it's waves, it's radiation. Yes, the fact that it's called radiation does not necessarily mean that that kind of radiation can harm you. Because there are also 2 kinds of radiation. There is the ionizing radiation, and then there is the non-ionizing radiation. The non-ionizing radiation are the microwaves. In other words, is small and has not enough energy to be able to really affect what it is going through. We're exposed to this. This microphone, for instance, has waves coming out. The one on your chest has waves coming out of it. The one on your phone has waves, but they are non-ionizing radiation. Now, the ionizing kind is now the gamma rays, the X-rays. Those ones, when they pass through a living organism, they can inflict some form of damage to the cell itself and force the cell to probably mutate.
Do you mean X-rays can cause damage?
Yes, X-rays do cause damage. That is why you're not supposed to be exposed to many X-rays. So while it is important, doctors are always looking for a risk-benefit ratio. Will this help the person, or do we work in the dark?
How about scans?
There are some things the scan may not be good at finding, that X-rays are better at finding.
Are scans harmful?
Ultrasound scans?
Yeah.
No, they are not. So ultrasound scan uses, think of a bat.
Okay.
A bat is blind.
Yeah.
Right? And the bat is flying this way and emits sound waves. Poo! And this, it gets a reflection back. It automatically knows, depending on how long it takes for that sound to come back here and reflect back, it knows there's something in front. So it diverts and emits another sound. That is exactly the same principle that ultrasound waves work by. So it's emitting sound into that, that area. And depending on the different reflection times, and even, for example, this sounds different from this because of the different densities. So that different densities is now able to give it a certain picture. You can now use that picture based on your understanding of anatomy to now recreate what you're seeing. But X-rays are different. X-rays, boom, radiation, short, fast, and it's absorbed by different.
Aren't there LDR alternatives to that?
There's MRI.
So MRI scans are safer.
Those
than
ones
X-rays.
using, yes, those ones. But then again, there are different use cases for different imaging procedures.
Interesting.
That's why the person who is doing your X-ray has a vest protecting their inner organs. Because they are the ones that are always there every day. If it were not harmful, they would not need that.
That's interesting.
So the microwaves don't have that kind
I'm
of...
learning a lot. Let's go for another one. Is it true that deodorants and antiperspirants can cause cancer?
There is no known evidence showing that deodorants are directly linked to breast cancer. Right? Some people will tell you, oh, the aluminum inside it, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Now, while that's a valid claim, aluminum and the rest, there's no direct link to cancer, because what the antiperspirants work by is that they simply go there and block the pores through which sweat is supposed to come out from. So it's like a shield mechanism. There are other things that can cause breast cancer. Remember we talked about genes earlier.
Yeah.
There are some genes that increase your predisposition to breast cancer, especially in women, which is why strong family history is also very important. Genes like the BRCA1 or the BRCA2.
Yeah, I've heard about something like that.
Yes. So those are the things we should actually be looking out for. What are the lifestyle changes that might be pulling the triggers? Things like smoking, for instance. Things like exposed to toxins, for instance. Those are some of the things that are the lifestyle changes that are pulling the triggers. But there is no known evidence. There's no link between these two.
Doc.
But I'll say people should do what they feel comfortable with.
I think I'd interrupt our flow to a given extent. I don't want to die. Or I'll put it this way. I don't want to die young. What would be 2 generic rules of thumb that you give me for healthy living to increase my chances of living longer? I mean, just 2 things or 2 rules you live by.
Okay, the ones I live by.
Yeah.
I exercise a lot.
Okay.
And I try to get as much rest and sleep as possible.
2 leads me to my very next question. You paid right into my question. No jokes. I want to know, what's the magic number of hours of sleep that a person should get per day?
I'm so sorry, I might not be able to answer this in 2 minutes.
I'll try. Go ahead. Give me 3, 4, 5.
Now, there's no magic number.
Okay.
You should be able to sleep up until the point where you wake up refreshed. completely refreshed.
How do I know if I'm refreshed?
You know, if you wake up groggy, you wake up feeling like you just had a hangover, that's a sign that your sleep was either interrupted. As a matter of fact, if the alarm interrupts your sleep, you know, there are people who now say, I wake up before my alarm. That means your body has settled into that
Circadian rhythm.
Yes. Inside your brain, there are about 20,000 neurons somewhere in the middle, somewhere. Call them the super chiasmatic nucleus. They are the ones that are like the grandfather clock inside your brain. Because before technology and all of this, our brain, your heart rate is even determined by, to some extent, the time of the day. Yes. Your bowel movement is determined to some extent by the time of the day, simply because of that circadian rhythm.
By the time of the day or your clock of the day. So in the sense that, what if I'm in an enclosed area? So for example, we're in a studio right now. If you had no idea what's happening outside, you had no idea the time exactly that you came in, you wouldn't necessarily know. But is that your environment and your body?
So remember, we came in from outside.
Yeah.
My body has already been exposed to a certain kind of light. My body knows. It's able to also calculate based on repeated patterns. It has formed its own circadian rhythm. Now, the thing is, if I'm used to going to sleep at a particular time, my body automatically starts preparing me for sleep before that period. If anything interrupts my sleep circle or my sleep cycle, let's say I'm supposed to sleep by 9, but for some reason something happens and they told me to come outside and I'm awake till 1. My body does not know that I'm probably in video or club. My body thinks, my body, not my conscious mind.
Yeah.
My body thinks that my life is at risk. So it releases cortisol, which is the stress hormone, to help you deal with whatever is not making you sleep. Remember, cortisol is the stress hormone.
Yeah.
Now, it thinks your life is at risk. It's your conscious mind that knows I'm currently in night vigil. It's your conscious mind that knows I'm in a club. That nucleus in your brain doesn't know that. So it knows, oh, we're not sleeping now. It's probably a lion chasing this guy.
It has a mind of its own.
It has a mind of its own. So it releases cortisol. Now, one of the most important things is that you need to have a regular sleep schedule. There are also some things we think sleep is just lying down and sleeping. Sleep is also maintaining that hygiene. Let me ask you a question. During the days of our forefathers, days of the really ancient guys that dealt with lions, do you think if sleep was not important enough, your body would allow you be immobile, unable to see, unable to hear, unable to protect yourself for a couple of hours? But your body knows that this time is important, that we are able to paralyze this man just for him to be able to survive. So sleep is important. Which is why I have a bone to pick with all the motivational speakers who tell me sleep more.
Successful people don't sleep 8 hours a day.
And they keep rattling it about as if it's something. Now, why is sleep important?
Tell me.
When you are in that sleep mode, of course, there are different stages. There's a non-REM and then there's a REM sleep. Those are like the two broad kinds. REM sleep is, there's still brain activity, but you are asleep. But there's brain activity almost similar to what will happen when you're awake.
Okay.
It's called the rapid eye movement, right? That's where you have your dreams. That's where you have nightmares. That's where people who wake up without going through the right process, all of a sudden think somebody's pressing their neck. It's a sleep disorder.
So are you saying that
Yeah.
people that they used to press their neck,
Yeah. So
it's not spiritual
it's
part?
not spiritual. It's a sleep issue.
Emeka, Nkechi.
It is a sleep issue. So,
Okay, tell me.
you're supposed to go through stage 1 to stage 4, and it takes roughly around 90 minutes. Now, Ideally, you're supposed to have about 4 a night.
Mm.
Yes.
Come
4
again.
cycles.
So stage 1,
The stage 1 is different from the non-REM and REM sleep. There's stage 1 of non-REM, stage 2 of non-REM, stage 3 of non-REM, which continue going deeper into the
each
sleep.
stage is
Each stage, all those 4
okay.
stages, because they have different time. One's about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. All these stages will take roughly around 90 minutes to complete. And you're supposed to go through, which is why there's some sleep. If you notice, something might happen to 2 people, or something might happen in a room. One person is awake, or one person is woken by that small sound.
Mhm.
The other person is not.
Mm.
The reason it's easier to wake up one person is because that person is probably in the stage of REM sleep. Because non-REM can also be described as deep sleep. That's when the real restorative effect of your body is happening. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking to you like this, there's waste matter accumulating in both our brains.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself,
don't
bro.
worry. There's waste matter misshapen proteins, damaged cells, damaged proteins. They're accumulating.
Yeah.
When we go into deep sleep, your body uses the fluid in itself to start to flush out that misshapen protein and put it in what we call the glymphatic system. That glymphatic system is like the waste removal. So when you are deep sleeping, deep sleep, not REM sleep, deep sleep, your body is clearing out waste from the brain, which now leads to the question, what happens when that waste in the brain is not removed? And that's when you have people who come down with dementia. And when people have dementia, you start to realize a lot of old people all of a sudden can't remember the name of their son.
So that's tied to lack of sleep for the
Yes,
vast
got tied for the vast majority of people, be tied to poor sleep. Now, remember we said 4 cycles. 4 stages. You're supposed to go through at least 4 cycles every night.
90 minutes for the 4 cycles, and there are 4.
At least ideally. And for the 4 stages, rather.
Yeah, 4
it's a
stages.
cycle, non-REM, REM. So usually if your non-REM, if your REM happens by 1 a.m., it's easier to wake up that period.
How come some people seem to always be in non-REM? They're very light sleepers. At almost every point of their sleep, they're light sleepers. While there are some other people who seem to always be in
deep sleep
deep
and
sleep.
not care, right? Now, some people have genes again. Some people have this genetic predisposition that can make them survive on roughly 4 hours of sleep and be fine. But not a lot of people. And you don't know which.
I calculated the stages. If at 90 minutes for each, that's about 360 minutes, which is about 6 hours.
So that's why we usually come up with our 6 to 8 hours.
Oh, fair. I see now.
That's why we come up with our 6 to 8 hours. Because for that cleaning system to be fully complete, roughly around 4 cycles. Now, if you notice, towards the morning, your body seems to start to wake itself just before you wake up. That's why your dreams happen closer to the morning than when you go to sleep. That's true. And that's because it's easier to dream when you are non-easier. That's when you dream. You dream in REM sleep. Not immediately you fall asleep. You don't sleep and then immediately start dreaming. It doesn't work that way. It's usually as you're starting to awake. Your body has already started the process. Remember, it's your circadian rhythm. Your body has already started the process of, okay, I think it's time. Let's wake this person up. And so the brainwave activity already starts. But because you're not fully awake yet, comes as dreams, nightmares, sometimes of your most troubling moments. Probably that problem that's been recurring over and over and over and over again. It comes as a dream or it comes as a nightmare. Now, the sleep is also responsible for your immune system.
Oh, wow.
So, poor sleep, poor immunity. The sleep is also responsible, aside from cleaning your brain, is also responsible for repairing damaged tissue. So, poor sleep, poor repair. The sleep is also responsible for balancing a lot of hormones. So, that restorative action of sleep is something I don't joke with.
So, Doc, something interesting happened, I think, some months back. Now, don't laugh at me, but this is very weird. How I was just getting to know this at my age, despite how, do I say, learned I am? And I like to think, despite how, do I say, exposed I am? So something interesting happened someday. Now, ever since I was much younger, we'd always known that it's better to eat about 3-4 hours before you sleep, right? Even though we always flout the rules. And at some point, upon getting married, my wife sleeps really early. She's like 8 p.m. She's at the early stages of our marriage. I sleep around 2 a.m. So I sleep about 6 hours after her. And so when she's waking up at about 5 a.m., I was just going to bed. And we're like different points on this, our REM, no REM, and all of these things. But something interesting happened on Sunday. I think it was food related. And then she gave me food, and I think it was really late for me, and I wanted to sleep. I can't remember. I think she went to bed, and I just took the food later to try it. And out of the blues, I asked her. I said, "Wait, why do we? Why are we always scared? I mean, you might be shocked that I said this. You know, I've never said something like, ah, shit, I'm not bright. I'm no jokes." And then I said, why? I was trying to act like I was smarter than doctors. I said, "Oh, why are we always saying people should, eat so like much earlier before they sleep? I thought your food can digest as long as you are sitting up." And so what I try to do is, okay, if I slept late, why can't I just sit up? So it would, the food would just, I mean, I used to think if you lie down, obviously you disrupt the digestion. And so if you're sitting up, the food would what?
The
Pass.
gravity will just push it down.
And then she said, now I'm not, I got, I'm embarrassing myself. My child will watch this. Daddy, you knew this at 30. And she said, and now I labeled, said, thank God, that's why it's good to marry someone that's smarter than you are. And then she said, oh, don't you know that when you sleep, your organs kind of shut down? I'm like, oh, really? That's what happens? Oh, I think I've read it somewhere that when you're sleeping, kini. So I want to ask you, what exactly happens when we sleep? Particularly with respect to our digestive
To
system,
digestion.
stomach, intestine. Tell me.
So, usually, as you eat,
Yeah.
aside from gravity, your body uses what we call the peristaltic motion. So, it's like a wave that just flows from your mouth and down to your anus. So, when you hear stomach noises, boom, 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 that is simply that wave moving,
Okay.
right? But when you eat and sleep immediately, that rate, if it was supposed to be faster, reduces. So it's slower. So digestion is slower.
Okay.
The rate of your gastric, of your stomach emptying into the intestines are also slower. Now, your body now has to choose between prioritizing digestion and prioritizing restoration. But because you've already given it work to do, it prioritizes digestion. So, yes, you are on the bed, but you're not fully sleeping. Because,
Oh.
which is why it's always great to allow the body digest its food before you go to sleep.
So your body will focus on repairs.
So your body focus on repairs, not just digesting the work you just gave it.
So yes. Thank you. We learn every day. Thank you very much. Okay. As the man of the people leads me to my next question. Now, what makes a person get fat?
So there are a couple of factors that lead to that, right? I wish it was a straightforward answer. Sometimes it's straightforward as you're taking more than your body needs. So your body stores the rest. But it's also your body is not burning as much as it should. So it's not. It's like a bank account. This is the most simplistic way to reduce it. If you keep depositing more than your body can withdraw,
Okay.
there's excess savings in your account, which is, which apparently should be my portion.
Amen.
If you have excess, I can do something with it.
All
Right?
the money with your account.
Right. So now the body's energy system is calories. Calories. Let's call that the currency of the body. That's what the body spends. So I'm talking to you, I'm burning calories. I pick this up, calories is spent. Stretch my hand, calories are spent. Calories, right? This is probably from this to this. My body tell me, oh, but that's 5 calories. Now, when you eat food, your body digests that food and is expended in energy as calories. Not every food has the same caloric currency. Is like naira, pounds, euros, yen. They are not the same.
Zimbabwean dollars.
Zimbabwean dollars. Some food in the realm of calories are Zimbabwean dollars. You can eat an entire mountain of it, and they probably give you just enough to walk from here to here. Meanwhile, there are some other foods that you take just a small piece of it, and it's most likely what you need to spend for the next day. So different foods have different caloric values. Now, simplistically, if you take more calories than your body can spend, after it has restored, it has repaired, because even the repairing, digesting, all of it spends calories. That excess, your body has to store it some, because the body cannot waste it. The body cannot waste it. So that excess is now stored so that you use it later. There are different ways your body stores energy. It either stores it in your liver or stores it in your muscle as glycogen. So glycogen is like fixed deposit I can always withdraw quickly. That's why I can exercise in the morning even though I've not eaten. Why? My body starts burning the glycogen that is in my liver, it's in my muscles, it goes there and burns it. Right? If it has finished burning those ones, or rather, if it has stored full and those ones are full and there's still no space, what does it do? It goes and stores it as adipose tissue, fat. So your body is now saving it as fat. Now, the more you take more than your body needs, the more storage it saves it as. Let's now go to how the body, we've talked about how the body saves energy. Let's not talk how the body spends energy. Our normal movement spends energy. Our exercise spends energy. But most people think, oh, if I exercise today, it means I burn a lot of energy. Not necessarily. Your body burns more energy even carrying out is just sitting down and sleeping. Your body is burning energy because it's trying to keep you alive. So it's burning energy. However, there is one particular tissue that is it likes spending calories. And that's muscle. Which is why the more muscle a person has, the higher their metabolic rates. So they are able to eat, which is why you see people brag. When they were younger, they make statements like, I can't get fat. No matter what I eat, can't get fat. Can you just go back to those your friends? Maybe they're now like 32, 33. I asked them again, that thing you told me when you were 16 years old. Update. Give me updates now. And they will struggle. Why? Because the older you get, the more muscle your body loses. So your body starts to lose muscle from age 30. Meaning the guy who spends the money, which is the calories, is beginning to drop. So what I would say is that I would prioritize building muscle so that my body can continue spending.
Thank you, Doc. Now, still on the subject of diet and nutrition, I think it's important that I ask a number of follow-up questions, right? Uh, I think the first one I'll ask will be, is drinking cold water harmful to digestion?
The moment you drink the water,
Yeah.
as soon as it lands inside your stomach it starts something to decrease. Your body will automatically warm it up.
So why is warm water recommended for medication intake?
And that's because of the way medication reacts with water, quotes and unquotes, right? There's a way, probably the way that medicine is formulated. Once you dip it, it's supposed to take its time, dissolve, and all of that, right? But because I'm not in the pharmacy line, I would not say there's a hard and fast rule. If you want to drink water or you want to take a medicine, the only water there is cold. Please don't say, and they say it can only work with one medication. So I will have to wait. And then you now miss your medication window, probably because warm water is like 3 hours away. You're not doing anybody any good.
Okay. Very well noted. But still on liquid. Let's double a little bit into detox tea, right? It seems
Absolute
to
rubbish,
be,
by the way. But
it seems to be, I won't call it a pandemic yet until you call it, but there seems to be a very interesting craze about detox teas, slimming teas as a meaningful alternative to building muscles or losing weight at the gym. Now, several people have come up to say, hey, it worked for me, it's effective.
how?
And there's also been, maybe, I'm sure everyone can definitely relate to it. There are many of these slimming teas and detox teas are usually pushed, and the gospel is more propagated by celebrities, right? I don't even say female, right? And some people are bought into it, and it's almost been like a self-fulfilling prophecy. More like, okay, I believe it's going to work for me, and then it's working, right? But from a medical standpoint, is there tangible proof that detox teas and slimming teas work and help people lose weight?
So I'll start from detox teas.
Yeah.
Detox teas are rubbish. Yes, I said it.
Oh, hi. I'd like to take a very quick break to tell you about something that has been a major game changer for not just myself, but for several other business owners as well. You know, for a while, I was actually struggling with managing finances, tracking expenditure, and curbing theft in my businesses. And all of my efforts actually proved futile until I was introduced to Budgetti. Budgetti is a financial management platform built for African businesses. And with it, you get to issue things like virtual corporate cards to your team, set spending limits, track every transaction in real time, and even get to approve requests instantly, all from your phone. Look, if you run a business, either big or small, all you have to do is check out Budgetti today at www.budgetti.com. Trust me, it will change the way you manage your business's finances. I'll do good to remind you at the end of this episode. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
They are just a play on people want to feel like I am doing something to affect my health. That's that's normal human behavior. But if I use that feeling and I'm selling something to you and telling you that it's going to detox you, detox simply means remove the toxins from your body. However, there's a particular organ in your body. As a matter of fact, there are two organs in your body that are solely responsible for that detoxing: your liver and your kidneys. So whenever you take something harmful, your liver metabolizes it into something less harmful. That's already detoxification and then excretes it.
Please explain again.
So you take something,
Okay.
your liver changes the chemical nature of it
Okay.
to something less harmful
Okay.
and passes it through your 3 or tells it, oh yeah,
It filters, like you said
yes,
earlier.
go into the intestines and get out of the body
Mm.
in a less harmful manner or in a less harmful way. Sometimes, in the magnanimity of our creator, it metabolizes it into a more harmful metabolites, right? Depending on the chemical. Your liver is already responsible for that job. Now, even the detox tea you take, your liver still goes and looks at it and say, okay, what are we going to do with this? Let's digest it or metabolize it. It doesn't go anywhere into your bloodstream. As quote and unquote, it's not going to your bloodstream and cleaning out things. Your liver is already doing that work. The ones that escape the liver and are now in the bloodstream are now filtered and excreted by the kidneys. So, what exactly is the detox tea? Nobody has been able to answer that question. What exactly has the detox tea done? Now, does it mean that there are some things that, quote and unquote, so there are antioxidants, right? When we eat certain things, your body, like we said, as we're living like this, there are different things happening. Our bodies are making free radicals, harmful chemicals, and then your body is now doing work, trying to mop up the excess and saying, oh, I don't want this thing to harm Olushola. Remove it from the system.
Yeah.
So it mops up those free radicals using antioxidants. So antioxidants is just anti-acid, so just mop up the free radicals. Now, there are some foods we eat that have a lot of antioxidants that actually help go mop up those free radicals. Things like coffee. For instance, black coffee will help you remove the antioxidants. Some vegetables will help.
So that's recommended.
Meals, yes. Some depending on your blood pressure, because it's a hit and miss situation. So some vegetables, some food would actually, make your body have more antioxidants to be able to mop up those free radicals. In that scenario, we can say it is helping to remove the quote and unquote toxins from the body. But you cannot tell me that, oh, I'm detoxifying. Then I'm taking alcohol, which is a toxin, for instance, and miraculously thinking that a tea would. There was something I saw that was so ludicrous. Somebody was selling a lung cleaning tea, lungs. So I can smoke. And a lot of your celebrities, ooh. So I will smoke, and then you give me the tea, and I mix it and drink it, and it will go and clear from my lungs. I need to say you one land.
On National Stadium.
National Stadium.
Well, what you just said, someone has actually made a whole living out of it. I'm sure you know who the person is. They're quite a number.
Yeah, they're quite a number.
Someone has actually made a whole living out of, selling a detox tea to help mitigate.
They're not
after
mitigating
smoke.
anything.
So you're trying to say that that's
they're not mitigating
and definitely
anything.
does nothing.
Nothing.
Interesting. So, Doc, I think you're so knowledgeable that if I give you a free run on all of these topics, you'll give me 30 minutes responses on each.
Oh, yes. And then slimming
yes,
teas.
slimming tea. Yes,
Slimming teas.
Slimming teas.
A lot of slimming teas are basically just laxatives. So it's like purging medicine. So you drink it, you purge. So your body does not even have enough time to digest the food, which is why they'll tell you, oh, it works for me.
No way.
Yeah. So you're putting your body at risk. Yes.
It's more like
did you slim or not?
It's more like a twin brother of, let's say, anorexia.
Did you slim or not?
So that's the trick.
Yeah. So you're having a horrible time. Your body's losing nutrients. Because even the nutrients that it's supposed to use and repair itself, it's losing it. So it's having to eat itself. Because it's not getting enough from food. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. Before I get to one very pressing question I'd like to ask, I think I'll just talk a little bit. I'll group this into two questions, right? So people say red meat is dangerous. What do you have to say to that? That's number one. In the same breath, what's your take on spicy food? Some people believe it causes cancer. It causes ulcers.
Okay. So, red meat, I would say discuss with your doctor based on your risk.
Okay.
And when I say risk, I mean colon cancer.
Oh.
So some people have higher risk. So if you've had a family member who has died from colon cancer, you need to go to the doctor earlier, 10 years earlier than when that person died, or start checking. Because I know somebody who died from colon cancer at 25 years old. His mother died from colon cancer. So they develop it earlier. So it's always best because some of these carcinogenic, things like processed meats, for instance, it just goes straight and, there's already a risk. It's like, we already have a loaded gun. If you have a loaded gun, if you don't shoot it, it won't harm you. But if you shoot it, then there's a problem. So you can have all the risk factors. But if you manage for lifestyle, which is why some people need to be more careful than others. It's like our previous conversation. I know where I'm coming from. It means I know I can't joke with some certain things. I have to be more stringent when it comes to spending, because I know the load I'm carrying and the load you are carrying, they're not the same thing. So if you already have that in your family history, you and your family, there's hypertension, there's diabetes, there's colon cancer, yet everything that passes junk and this thing, you eat it. One person is going to suffer for it, and that's not a curse. So for red meat, I would say discuss with your doctor. Assess your risk level first. One of the simplest things you can do is do a colonoscopy. They take a camera, put it up your anus, and look at your colon. Are there any polyps growing? Is there any growth growing? Well, I've done that. Not a pleasant experience, but I've done it. I've also had one taken through my...
It's quite invasive.
Yeah, it is.
Men will have prostate cancer. Men will maybe run risk for prostate cancer after they
Sometimes also have to
40,
get
55, have to
examined.
go through the
Yeah, have to
examination. They're always talking about invasive.
Yeah, but this is just a small camera. You just take it in. You're not literally awake for it in most cases, depending.
Through where? Your mouth?
No. So there's one through the mouth. That's an endoscopy. That one looks for stomach ulcers.
Oh, okay.
Which in some people might give you gastric cancer, which is stomach cancer. Right? In some people. Now let's go to stomach cancer.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. The use of an endoscopy could lead to...
An endoscopy is used to check
for
stomach ulcers.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, which if stomach ulcer is left untreated, for some people, it might graduate to stomach cancer.
Wow.
Yes. Now, the colonoscopy is from the other way up. That one is looking at the colon, the lower part of the large intestine, which is where colon cancers usually. And please, we need to become more aware of this thing. A lot of people say, Aproko Doctor, every time I just meet you, it's always bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news. And I'm saying, the fact that you hide your head in the sand does not necessarily make you safe. Ignoring it doesn't make you safe. Our DMs, we run a foundation. We know how many people come to us with end-stage cancer. And it's sad because most times at that point, there's almost nothing. Okay, you know what? Let me just give good news for the sake of it. Cancer is treatable if you catch it on time. Cancer is curable if you catch it early. The problem is a lot of people show up late because routine checks for our bodies is not part of our culture.
What's a recommended interval for routine checks?
I'd say yearly.
So every
Do it on
single
your
year.
birthday. Random kidney function tests, liver function tests. Make a habit of it. I just want to know what my numbers are. A lot of people can tell how many goals Arsenal has scored since the day they started, but don't know what their last LDL is.
Off your mic. Off your mic. So
every year do the random tests.
You were going to talk about spicy food causing ulcers.
So spicy foods and then ulcers. Spicy foods do not necessarily cause ulcers, but spicy foods can make ulcers worse. So an ulcer is simply this. Have you had a wound on your body before? Wound you can physically see? Yes, I have. It's painful. It's a break. You can feel it. It's a break. It's a cut. It's something. Imagine that in your stomach. That's a stomach ulcer. That's a stomach ulcer. Now, if I take pepper and put on that wound outside, of course, I'm going to have an uncomfortable time. The same way, if you take atarodo and put it inside your stomach, when you already have an ulcer, you're going to have a horrible time. It is not the pepper that caused the ulcer. It is the fact that there's already a break. Or sometimes it's the entire stomach itself that is inflamed. That's a condition we call gastritis. So it's reddish. Like it's reddish and it's inflamed. It's very tender. You now take pepper and put inside. Come on. You're going to have a very uncomfortable time. Now, the problem is a lot of people think they have ulcers when they don't. Because the definite way to check if a person has an ulcer is a camera down your throat into your stomach. I need to see the ulcer myself before I say you have a stomach ulcer.
What are the causes though? Here is because people don't eat. Those are one of the
Fasting
things.
does not also cause ulcer. No.
There is, the guy handling the camera at some point was like, so what do I believe? You see what I said now? That our work just started. So there is,
There's a break, right?
Yeah.
That break, that wound inside the stomach is what we call stomach ulcer. Wound. Now, there are two things that are common that can lead to that wound. Number one is a bacteria known as H. pylori. Dirty food, dirty water, somebody has it, they kiss you.
Wait.
Share
Ulcer.
spoon, H. pylori.
So, okay.
The bacteria.
The bacteria.
H. pylori, yes. If it's transmitted from person to person, it could go. Now, there's something very sinister about this bacteria. The amount of acid in your stomach, right? Or rather, the pH of the acid in your stomach is around 1 to 2. Can compare itself with battery acid. What? Yes. The acid, like I said, our bodies are magnificent. Now, that acid is just somewhere in your stomach, also helping to digest food. You would assume that as the bacteria enter the acid like this, pam, die. But the bacteria has figured out a sinister way to survive in the stomach without being affected by the acid. It burrows a hole into the stomach wall and digs through and just stays. There's a way, yes.
Hidden.
Is hidden. But you see, it has already dug a hole. And there's a lot of vacuums. The acid will generally follow. Now, there is the stomach. Give me the iPad. Yeah. Now imagine this is the surface of your stomach. This is the surface of your stomach.
Yes.
Why doesn't the acid directly affect the stomach itself? Good question. That is because there is a layer, the mucus layer, that covers the entire surface of the stomach, the inner lining, protecting it from the acid. So the acid is directly affecting the mucus layer, not the stomach itself. But when the H. pylori digs through, it has dug a hole through the mucus layer, so the acid can now affect the stomach itself. Also, because now acid
protective barrier
yes.
has now
So
been-
if I continue pouring acid here, it would generally affect me. There is also another cause, NSAIDs. I could mention earlier. NSAIDs,
Ibuprofen.
yes, ibuprofen, diclofenac, and and the rest of them. What they do is that they affect the production of that mucus layer. They reduce the production of it, which is why you notice that people who generally have stomach ulcers will tell you that they've always been taking pain medication for a particular type of pain. Once the protective layer has been destroyed, the acid now starts directly affecting the stomach itself. So now, if I'm fasting and there's no food in my stomach, the
Mhm.
acid is directly, I feel the pain more because the acid that's supposed to attack food is not attacking the stomach wall itself. If I take pepper, I'll feel it more because it's like pouring pepper on the wound. If I take fizzy drinks, any drink that does psh, and I drink it, I have a horrible time. Why? That fizziness is also what's affecting the wound itself. There are also some foods, citric acid, for instance, that could stimulate more acid production, would affect it.
There's obviously a whole lot to. I mean, I've done a lot of learning, unlearning, thanks to this, and then now also we'll be doing some relearning. But time has gone so fast. We're almost about 2 hours in.
Yeah, I'm just
Apparently,
realizing.
I've also just been notified, right? But I have a whole lot to still cover, and so because of the scope of the time, and because I also want to make this as concise as possible enough for people to digest, it will be a pleasure to have you back someday in the coming months. It will really be a pleasure because there's still so much to unpack. But very quickly, I think I'm just going to go over 4 more questions and then we call this quits. 2 of which are actually very personal. There are some very interesting details of my life that are not out there in the public.
Mhm.
And so I think I'll begin from a particular point and then we get to those very rather vulnerable parts. Now, quick question. Does cracking your knuckles cause arthritis?
No.
Because I like to crack.
No.
Thank you very much. So how come people think it causes arthritis?
Well, most people experience arthritis from their small joints. So they just assume, oh, the last thing I did was crack it.
Interesting.
Or I have a habit of cracking it. And so 1 + 1 = 2.
So how come you think cracking necks can lead to the demise of a person?
Demise of a person.
You seem to have, I mean, I know it's not a personal grouse, but you seem to have an issue with chiropractors.
Yeah, they also have an issue with me, which is fine.
Why do you think? Okay, so I don't know if you saw, there was a video of me getting my neck cracked. It was quite, it was quite, and somewhere, somehow, in my mind, I'm like, I'm trying to imagine Aproko Doctor's reaction seeing this. It's like, Oga, I go enter your DM. Oga, what is all this?
I'm so glad I didn't see it.
Yeah, so
It's fine.
I've had like 2 sessions of it, and I think I can share this with you. For like the better part of the last 8 to 10 years, I've had issues with my neck. For example,
Have you seen a physiotherapist?
I have seen a physiotherapist.
To consider your example.
I have seen a physiotherapist. For example, uh, I have issues looking at someone straight or looking at the thing straight for like a 5 minute to 10 minute period, or talking without having to bend my neck or crack it for a little bit, right? I think the issue started from, I think it was a period in my life in the house where I slept a lot on the couch, right? I think I vacated my room for someone, just person stayed on the bed and then I just came sat on the couch. So I kept on putting my neck on that particular pedestal. And then in the mornings I have to crack my neck and so on and so forth. But now it's actually going into a pretty funny issue. And it got so bad that I went to see a physiotherapist, and after some tests and so on and so forth, I was told that uh, I have something they call partial arthritis. Now, I need to understand exactly what that is because upon examination and upon interpretation, I mean, I was told it wasn't obviously something that serious. They told me arthritis was obviously the point where there's a weakening of the joints and so on and so forth. And then as people grow older, they begin to have some measure of people. I'm like, hey, I was 28 at the time. And I'm like, why are you telling the 28-year-old he has partial arthritis? What does that mean? Right.
Okay.
So I want to ask you, and then, but just before you weigh in on it, so I did some physiotherapy. I was told to not try to crack my necks. Yes. I was told to try and at most do this sometimes, right? And maybe sometimes do this occasionally. And when I do it, I get a bit of a reprieve. Yes, a bit of a relief here and there. But what led to the chiropractic was because I think I did it sometime years ago and I felt so much relief. And I also sometimes I think the pain from the neck also kind of gets to the back, right? And when I went to see a chiropractor, I was examined and I was told that I obviously had some bad sleeping habits because I used to sleep.
Compensating.
Yeah,
One sec.
I used to sleep face down sometimes and just, so now I'm told where to keep the pillows right under my knees, right below my knees, and so on and so forth. And after the chiropractic session, I happened to feel so much relief. It felt so good. I felt much better. But then, as a medical doctor, you're telling me it's very dangerous. What, number one, why? And number two, what are the meaningful alternatives? The pain sometimes could get unbearable.
Okay. So, at the simplest form, when two bones are grinding against each other, they are not supposed to grind. There's a protective layer in between this bone and in between that bone, right? So they can move, but they are not completely grinding against each other. Think of it like your engine. The reason engines knock, probably because oil is leaking, and then the metal parts are now forced to directly scrape on each other. So arthritis, in many cases, is a wearing away of that tissue that is supposed to make that gliding smooth. So the gliding is no longer smooth. Now, because bone is beginning to rub against bone, you feel one of the very common effects of arthritis, which is pain.
Okay.
Because bone is not supposed to rub against bone, especially when they are close together. It could be because, and this may just postulated, your neck has been forced into a particular position for a very long time. You mentioned that there was a habit of, probably a pedestal or something. It's very possible that those bones were forced to compensate. There's also a positional thing. Sometimes, one of the reasons you probably feel the pain towards your back is because, in a way to try and avoid the pain, what do you do? Without even knowing, you are trying not to force your body into that position. So your neck is in a particular position without you knowing for a while. That puts either this side or the side affected under strain for a long time. That's why the muscle starts to hurt, because you're compensating to not feel the pain. That's another thing. Now, the physiotherapists, I'm sure they looked at an image.
Yeah, they did.
They showed you the image.
Yes, they did.
Right? Now, because they're working with that image, there are ways to manage that condition, because it's a deteriorating condition. Means the damage has already happened. What we now need to do is prevent further damage from happening.
Okay.
Right? Here's my problem with cracking, especially the neck.
This piece of information is life-changing. You see, chief amongst the things that I preach on this platform is capacity building, one of which includes advanced education to further position you for better opportunities in the job market. And in that regard, one of the common questions that I get is, how do I further my studies abroad in a seamless way that still retains my chances of being accepted? Now, this is literally the fear of a lot of people, and that is why, upon evaluating their track record, we've decided to partner with Mimshak Educational Consult. Mimshak Educational is your end-to-end support system. Whether you're stuck on choosing the right program, battling complex university applications, or perhaps navigating the headache of visa guidance, Mimshak is there to see you through. What I appreciate the most about them is that they've built these massive connections with universities around the globe just to make sure that you aren't just another applicant in the pile. And the tastiest part is their consultation is absolutely free. They say the best of things don't come for free, but not where Mimshak Educational is. And so I admonish you to go one step further by visiting the link on your screen or
in the description of this video to grab a free consultation. And you can also find them on Instagram at Mimshark Educational and use the link in their bio. Why not take that first step that your future self will thank you for? Now let's get back to the juice of the conversation.
Very close to your cervical vertebrae are blood vessels that are going straight to the brain. In close proximity. There are some that are inside, called internal carotids. There's some that are outside. They are like the third mainland to your brain. The third mainland. The problem with forceful cracking is that you don't know who has a slight shear in that vessel, because the vessel, we think the vessel is covered by the vessel is indestructible. That crack, yeah, it sounds good. A lot of the air bubbles or the air pockets.
It also feels good.
Yes, because of the air pockets. You crack so many at once. It's like you crack your knuckles and then you feel some bit of relief. But the reason I've never said cracking your knuckles is harmful is simply because there's no associated risk. You can crack your knuckles all you want. Why did I say neck cracking is a problem? It's simply because we have documented evidence of some of those blood vessels that are very close getting stretched, getting a shear, getting torn. Remember, we said that that's like the two-third mainland, to and fro the brain. A simple shear or a simple tear, boom, that's it. That's it. Do you feel relief? Yes, you will. Is it a dangerous act? Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for shedding more light on that and giving some extra.
They're playing Russian roulette every time you do that.
But the very funny thing is, chiropractic medicine seems to be a growing branch within general medical science. And my question is, many of the reservations you have about it seem not to be raised, at least within those chiropractic circles. So if it's risky to crack necks, how come the discipline of chiropractic is encouraged within a scope of general medicine, both in Nigeria and in saner climes?
Let me check.
Chiropractic.
Chiropractor.
Yeah. Because, I mean, many believe, okay, I studied for this, I read it, I did all of this. So if it's quote unquote such a big issue,
Why is it not raised?
yeah, how come?
So I want to use your words.
Yeah.
You said chiropractic is recognized as a side of, general medicine.
Within.
Is not. Chiropractic is not a branch of medicine.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, it is classified as a distinct, independent and healthcare profession or a form of alternative or complementary medicine.
So why
So
is
it
my
is not
chiropractor
under-
called a doctor?
Anybody can call themselves doctor.
That's somehow.
It's not orthodox medicine. It's alternative medicine. You've just decided to seek help somewhere else that is not recognized under medicine as we know it. So it's alternative medicine.
All right. Thank you very much. I think I'll hold what you said with my left hand so I don't eat with it. And thank
You
you
can
very
feel
much.
free to contest this.
Counsel well noted. I think maybe the next time we're just gonna do chiropractor versus medical doctor. Let's do that, round 2. Fight. Thank you very much. So as I went down on the conversation, Doc, I think it leads me to my penultimate question. I think I'd like to talk a little bit on fertility. By the way, there are quite a number of things I can talk to you about. I can also talk about things around even content creation I miss many more things because definitely you've got a very massive skin in the game. Beyond just being a medical doctor who creates content, you're actually one of the foremost content creators in the country. You are obviously at the upper echelon in that regard, right? You have, if I'm not mistaken, over 10 million followers across your different social media touch points. That's massive. That's like 0.0001%. And I think that's very impressive. And I had a number of questions and things to talk about with respect to building consistency and longevity in that game, but maybe for a different conversation on a separate day. And so to just draw the curtain on this already insightful conversation, the penultimate question will speak to fertility because I want to try to touch on many things as much as possible. I once heard that the moment a woman turns 30, 31 years of age, that about 50% of the quality of her eggs drop. It's been contested by quite a number of people, and I think that the facts are not necessarily so direct, as it might vary from person to person. But long story short, it feels as though the moment a woman reaches a particular age range, I'd say circa 29 towards 35, right? There, there seems to be a reduction in the quality of the eggs. Now, the reduction in the quality of eggs seem to affect a number of things. Uh, and please, I stand corrected by you, of course. The very first one is that, first and foremost, it reduces to some extent the chances of taking in as much as it could have been in the years before. But secondly, also, it feels like there seems to be, with the weaker quality of eggs, also to some given extent, weaker quality of children. Permit me to use the words that way. Now, I said that to say that there's been some medical proof to say that I want to make sure I use the right words, but some I don't want to use the word conditions. Yes, I could use the word conditions. Some conditions seen in newborn, there seems to be a higher risk of a child, for example, being
Born by older women.
yes, exactly. Yeah, a child being what's it called, autistic, for example. Maybe not necessarily autism, but I mean some other medical conditions tied to being born by older women. I want you to first and foremost speak to it. How correct is that, number one? And number two, why is that the case? And number three, what will your counsel be to any viewer here, maybe already 30 plus, unmarried, or not yet ready? Would you advise them to freeze their eggs? Because it seems to be the order of the day today. Or what would you advise? How do they navigate these rather murky waters?
So, the thing with absolute numbers is that most times they're always wrong because the human body varies from person to person. So, I would not necessarily say 50%. How do you grade the quality of eggs by the 50%? How do you know it's 50% less value? Right? That's one problem I have with that premise. The second clarification that needs to be said is that when a woman is born, she's born with all the eggs she would ever have.
Hmm.
So the moment she comes out of a womb, she has all the eggs she would ever need during her lifetime.
Wow.
Now, for every cycle of menstruation, eggs are recruited in the expectation that one of them will get pregnant. If that doesn't happen, that entire cycle is repeated every month. So if you have a number from this ovary, a number from this ovary times 12, times the number of years since she experienced puberty, it also tells you that there is a reduction in not just the number, but then age also affects everybody. So even the eggs themselves. So there is some truth to that. However, like we said, a person's lifestyle also determines a couple of things. There are also women who are dealing with other conditions like PMOS that was renamed from PCOS. for instance. Some women don't even ovulate.
So
So
it's no longer polycystic ovarian
Yeah.
syndrome. It's now what?
PMOS.
What?
Hold on. Let me be sure. Yeah. So it's called polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. So the new name is it's no longer PCOS. It's now PMOS. Polyendocrine, meaning a lot of hormones, metabolic, meaning that there's also a metabolic factor, and then ovarian syndrome. The ovaries are also affected. Women will deal with those conditions that may also affect their fertility. Right? Now, what do they do?
Yeah.
If, a certain age, the medicine has come a long way. Freezing of the eggs is an option. But freezing of the eggs is not a guarantee that pregnancy will happen.
Mm.
Because sometimes you think it's a guarantee. No, there are people who have assisted reproductive techniques that failed. You mix the sperm and the egg together and just doesn't quote and no quotes catch. Or it catches and the pregnancy is lost. So the same thing that could happen in a normal pregnancy could also happen in a frozen egg.
It's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. There are chances that, the chances of success might be increased and all
Yeah.
that. Now, there's also an unspoken rule because the moment we think fertility, many people think women.
Yeah.
Men also. So if we look at a couple trying to get pregnant, 30% of the problem is usually from the woman. 30% of the problem is usually from the man alone. It's either the man has a problem with the sperm, he's either not producing enough, or he's producing the ones that don't move, or he's producing the ones that are misshapen. Or 30%, both of them together combined have issues. And then the remaining 10% or no.
The issues they have together, compatibility.
It could be the man has a condition known as varicocele, the woman is dealing with PMOS, for instance.
Yeah.
Combined issues. It could be the man had orchitis as a child that has affected his ability to produce sperm. The problem is with men, sperms are produced in a cycle. So new ones are produced. But like almost every organ in your body also, the older you get, the less the quality. So men also suffer from poor quality sperm as they get older, which is also dependent on the person's lifestyle.
Interesting.
So there are a couple of factors that play in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you. I'm sure the average viewer's notes are already pretty much full. So I'm gonna wind down on this entire conversation. I think my final question has to be in relation to the number one thing Aproko Doctor is known for. And what would that be? Doc, another vulnerable moment and something that is not public. On February 14th, 2024, as lovers celebrated, my night ended in a very, very, very gruesome way. It was a Wednesday. And so as I got home from church, I took cornflakes with milk. And at about 11 o'clock, I began to notice some ache here at the right of my stomach. And the pain was beginning to get a bit unbearable. And I tried so much to manage it. But roughly around 12 midnight, I had to knock on the door of my flatmate, my friend, and I said, "Hey, man, this is crazy." Now, this was shortly before my wedding, before uh, I got married. And at this point, he was looking at me as like, "Yo, what's up? What's wrong with you?" And so I knocked on my friend's door, and then he drove me to the hospital. And upon getting to the hospital, having been to say typical of the Nigerian medical system, they just kind of conclude before testing things out or knowing and even asking questions. The moment you hold a part of your stomach, some already think is appendicitis without even asking, and so on and so forth. But long story short, doc, this pain began to build up, and I never felt anything like that in my life.
Mm.
My pain threshold was Even if it's high or mid or whatever, this pain was unbearable. And at some point, I had to ask to just be given any medicine whatsoever to just make me either it's your NSAID or whatever it's called. I just wanted something. And then thankfully, I was injected, but the pain still persisted till the next morning.
Mm.
And I remember waking up around 5 a.m. trying to say, you know what, I think I need advanced medical care. One thing led to another. I landed at a hospital in Surrey, which, by the way, I was told you had worked there before. Had literally no idea. And upon getting to the doctor, they did some tests, and then I was diagnosed with kidney stone.
Mm.
First time in my life, I was really coming face to face with that reality. Like, what does this mean? Now, for context, to anyone who's watching, I did a little bit of a search recently, and the search was which of these pains are the hardest? Toothache, whitlow, or kidney stone? And Claude AI ranks these three pains. And the first one he ranks is whitlow. He said, no, whitlow is painful, but He says toothache, very painful. He says kidney stone is so painful that many people argue is worse than childbirth pain. I remember talking to a medical doctor about it, and she said boldly, she said when she was practicing in Oman, many of the Middle Eastern men who come to the hospital holding their right stomachs, it was actually from the terrible pain from kidney stones. Now, long story short, doc, and this is to someone, when they tell you take water, there's a reason beyond the other medically verifiable reasons. But I had a very bad habit of not drinking enough water. And so this was a very rude shock. So it was so bad. I'm a pastor behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know this. But I remember a particular day I was preaching and I was coughing. And someone, a protocol member, tried bringing water to me on stage on a Sunday. And I remember saying, no, 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 take it back. I don't drink water in the morning. A church member almost flipped from his chair. Like, what do you mean? I didn't think it was much of a big deal because I don't take breakfast. I don't eat till like 2 p.m. almost every day. I battled kidney stone. It was so bad, the pain I felt over the next couple of days. And then the doctor told me that different ways was going to happen, that if it was big enough, then they might have to do some kind of surgery. But thankfully for me, it wasn't so big, so I could pass it out by drinking water. Doc, I turned to Aproko Shola.
You drank water.
I was drinking water again, again, and again. And thankfully, due to water therapy,
Able to
I
pass
got
it on.
reprieve. I was able to pass it on. And I'm grateful to God for keeping me to this very day. But I want to say, Doc, people don't have to learn the hard way like I did. And so, as we wrap this entire conversation up, I want to know how much or what is the ideal quantity of water that an average person should take every day.
So it's very easy to say 6 to 8 glasses, but like I said, there's no hard and fast rule. It's dependent on a lot of issues. How active were you? If you're active and you're sweating, you need to replace that water. So you're no longer working with 6 to 8 hours again. You're not working with 6 to 8 glasses again. You're not working with 3 liters again. How hot is the environment? We live in a hot environment. It means that you don't necessarily have to pee to lose water. From your talking, you're losing water. You're breathing, you're losing water. Your water is being lost from your skin. It's been evaporated before you even see it, and not a sweat. So we're losing water from numerous places. You need to replace that water that is being lost. Or else, your kidneys will be forced to concentrate because they said the body does not like waste. So your kidneys are looking at this person does not have enough water. Let's take what we have from the body and take it back into the bloodstream so that this person doesn't die of dehydration. So it's concentrating your urine further. And then the urine is now made up of certain, calcium, this, that when it's so concentrated, they form crystals. Some of those crystals have very sharp edges. That's why it's painful because the tube that is supposed to pass urine, called the ureter, out of the kidney is not supposed to handle solid. It's supposed to handle only liquids. But right now, because the urine is so concentrated and it has stayed there for a while, there's a solid inside. what was your feces like during that period? Hard. One of the reasons it's hard is because when food sits in your colon, your body is looking for water. So it even goes to the feces that is inside your colon and say, how much water can we extract from this place? And collect it. You're lucky in the sense that it was a small kidney stone. There are people that have completely blocked. And when it's blocked, backflow starts to happen.
Irreversibly?
Like blocked the pipe.
Oh.
So the stone is big enough to block the pipe and they're in excruciating pain. Now have to pass this thing and then physically break up the stone, which is another procedure on its own. So please, I would say listen to your body. Drink, make it a habit. Drink.
I drink water. Did it 10%? I drink water every morning. I wake up, drink beside my bedside.
That's the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning. I wake up in the morning, I drink water. As a matter of fact, it even helps me not feel the pang of hunger as much. Helps me not feel the pang of hunger. So I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is drink water. It helps me move my bowel. I'm walking around in the day, I'm drinking water. I have a water bottle in my car. I have it everywhere I am. I'm just drinking water. But they will not tell you, Aproko Doctor, they said that drinking water is gonna kill you. If you drink so much water within a short period, you overcome your kidney's ability to concentrate the urine. And that's what eventually.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So an average of 6 to 8 glasses.
3, depending on your size.
3
2
liters.
to 3 liters.
Okay. What's the guess? Okay. That's about 3 bottles of water at 75 cl each. More or less. Thank you so much, Doc. I need to say this has been a most insightful conversation. I think not every time do I get to have like 2.5 hour long conversations with people and it doesn't feel like it. In fact, I'm only let me confess, we're actually only bringing this to a halt for 3 reasons. Number 1, I'm conscious of our Aproko's time. Number 2, I don't want it to be too much to take for people. And number 3, I think our camera batteries are already saying, hey, wrap it up. But Doc, before you go, I always like to give my guests a gift. And let me act like ladies will say, what can I give a man that has everything? And so for a big man like you, what exactly can I give you? And so in this sense, I always want to make sure that I give books or materials of some of my favorite authors or books that I hope will definitely help them in different areas of their lives. And on this particular occasion, it's The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. I'm sure you know Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, the author of The Outliers. And so I really hope you find this book insightful. You look to me like someone who consumes a lot.
Actually wanted to have a physical copy. So I consumed the digital copy on my Kobo somewhere, but
thank you. I'm happy. It's a meaningful gift. Thank you so much.
I've always wanted a physical copy.
Interesting. So here you go. So The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. On behalf of myself and everyone in the Echo Podcast Studio, I want to say we love you so much. Thank you. And thank you for lending a voice. And thank you for being a force for good. I want to say you have saved more lives, or God has saved more lives through you than you might ever know. The little tips here and there, it might sound overbearing. Some people think you're a killjoy. Some people think you strike fear into them.
They're thankful, by the way. And they just don't like me.
But I want to say thank you so much for being a darling on our screens, whether we like it or not. And thank you so much for being a part of this. God bless you. We're still going to have another conversation. Hopefully we can get you again in about some months or a year's time. And I want to say thank you so much and God bless you. And ladies and gentlemen, it's at that juncture that I want to say thank you for riding with us. And by the way, you can actually be a huge part of the success of this podcast by ensuring other people get to hear all of these gems. All you have to do is simply like this post, because by doing so, the algorithm takes it to way more people. Then also by subscribing and turning on post notifications, so you'll be the very first person to know when next we drop another insightful conversation. And as we sign out, I wouldn't be able to do this without the help of our very incredible partners. For example, we have Harim Istanbul, the reputable scent brand present in over 75 countries of the world, and our official scent partners. And by the way, I happen to be wearing their scents on some of the episodes that we churn out here on the Echo Podcast. Amazing. You should definitely check them out by clicking on the link in the description below. And also a very huge shout out to our partners, Budgetti, for the success of the Echo Podcast, for standing beside and standing with us. And I also want to say a very huge shout out to our media partners, Nevon Media, for giving us the platform to be able to curate this insightfully. Till the next episode, guys, I want to say thank you for watching this, and I hope it has been as insightful as it has been to me. God bless you.